Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Co-Host, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So here's what I haven't heard from Donald Trump. I haven't heard him introduce legislation to take the tax off of tipped wages. I was just going to ask that. I haven't heard legislation about taking the taxes off of overtime work, and I haven't heard legislation to take tax off of Social Security. I haven't heard any of that. Isn't that something? That's what he was running on. It's not as yet to happen, but he's got all this other stuff. In Israel. And now, but he made sure he took care of Israel immediately and started bombing Yemen. That happens at the blink of an eye. And now here's another thing that's happening. President Trump will not cut 1 penny from Social Security and Medicare and will not raise the retirement age by 1 day. You know why? Is this an old promise or a new one? So it's not 1 penny. It's going to be a lot more. That's the trick. That's the trick.
I will not cut 1 penny from Social Security or Medicare, and I will not raise the retirement age by 1 day, not by 1 day. And for 4 years, I didn't. For 4 years, you saw that, I didn't. By contrast, Kamala Harris cast a tie-breaking vote to cut Medicare by $237 billion. You didn't know that? A betrayal of American seniors. She betrayed American seniors. She's the one that cast the final vote.
Okay, so keep that in mind. That's what he said when he was running. Now here we are.
One last question.
Go ahead.
Entitlements ever be on your plate?
At some point they will be. We have tremendous growth. We're going to have tremendous growth. This next year, it'll be toward the end of the year. The growth is going to be incredible. And at the right time, we will take a look at that. You know, that's actually the easiest of all things, if you look, because it's such a big
willing
percentage.
To do something.
If you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting, but we're also going to have growth like you've never had before.
You changed your outlook on how to handle entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Mr. President. It seems like something has to be done, or else we're going to be stuck at 120% of debt to GDP forever.
Oh, that's where the problems are.
Yeah.
So first of all, there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting. And
yeah. And guess, you want to know what they're doing? An internal Social Security Administration memo dated March 13th lays out a plan of sabotage for the agency. The memo itself predicts service disruption, operational strain, and budget shortfalls will result. So they're trying to screw up Social Security.
But Israel's going to give what they need, right? Just tell me that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else except Israel.
Israel's getting their money, for sure.
Okay. All right.
They're cutting the staff at Social Security, and they're trying to cause, on purpose, service disruptions and operational strain. And how do I know this? Because my mother-in-law was promised a check from Social Security. She didn't get it. They said they have to verify her address and her identity, and they said you could do it online. Well, of course, she's 86, so she doesn't really, she's not good with a computer, so she's going to go in person, so they have to make an appointment. And now the appointments are backed up. Why? Because of service disruption, operational strain, and budget short. So they want to overwhelm the Social Security offices while they close them and cut their staffs. So they want to make people think that Social Security doesn't work, but they're intentionally sabotaging it. And here I'm going to show you how they're doing it. The memo, authorized by Acting Deputy SS Social Security Administration Commissioner Doris Diaz, purports to be motivated by a desire to mitigate fraud risks. Elon Musk has pushed several false claims about the nature and scope of Social Security fraud. The biggest chance contemplated by the memo is to require internet identity proofing. That's exactly what my mother-in-law is going through. For benefit claims made over the phone. When a Social Security Administration customer is unable to utilize the internet ID proofing, customers will be required to visit a field office to provide in-person identity documentation. That's what she's being required to do. Currently, customers can make claims and verify their identity without using the internet or visiting a Social Security office. Fraud is extremely rare because there are many safeguards in place. Because the Social Security Administration serves a large population that is either older or disabled, many can't access the internet. Under the new system, This would force these populations to visit an office to have their claim processed, like my mother-in-law. The memo estimates it would require 75,000 to 85,000 in-person visits per week to Social Security offices to implement the policy. Social Security offices do not have the resources to handle this influx. So they're doing this on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, the most recent data available, there were about 119,128 daily visits on average to Social Security offices. 85,000 more weekly visits would be an increase of 14%. The wait time for a Social Security appointment, even before these changes, averaged over a month. And there's nothing healthier than to have an 80-year-old have to wait online that goes around the block to not get enough money for rent. I mean, come on. Eye of the tiger, even with glaucoma. The memo anticipates creating a huge surge in demand for in-person appointments at the Social Security offices as they slash staff and close offices. The Social Security, pushed by Doge, is planning to cut 12% of its staff and is shuttering dozens of offices. So that's where they're cutting. They're not cutting the Pentagon. They're not cutting the bomb budget for Yemen. They're not cutting the bomb budget for Israel. They're not cutting the money we give to Israel. They're coming after your Social Security, like George Carlin said fucking 20 years ago. A Social Security source said there are no significant concerns about fraud at intake because multiple layers of ID verification take place before a claim is verified. The source said they believe the new steps are an effort to create additional hurdles to filing claims and overwhelm the system. The combination of fewer workers, fewer offices, and a massive increase in the demand for in-person services could sabotage the Social Security system, denying many Americans the benefits that they're due. The memo predicts service disruption, operational strain, and budget short. That's the memo from the Social Security Administration. They're predicting this.
You know why they call them entitlements? Because you're fucking entitled to it because you fucking paid into it.
Because you paid into it in your whole life. That's why you're...
It's a pyramid scheme. No, you're thinking of Israel and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Asshole.
Musk taps private equity veterans to aid Doge at Social Security. Social Security agency becomes beachhead for cost cutting. Not the Pentagon. The team includes veterans of Valor Equity Partners and Lone Pine. Oh, they sound like great people. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has sent 3 individuals with experience in private equity and finance to the Social Security Administration, highlighting the focus that President Donald Trump is putting on rooting out waste and fraud in the nation's social insurance program. So do you know that's not what they're doing? They're trying to muck up Social Security. Among those tapped for the task are Antonio Gracias and Valor Equity Valor Equity Partners, who also served on the board of Tesla Inc. and was an early investor in SpaceX, 2 of Musk's companies, as well as Scott Coulter, formerly of Lone Pine Capital. Those names confirmed in agency and court documents underscore the importance that the Social Security Agency has taken as a beachhead for Musk's government cost cuts, so that they're coming for your Social Security. So this is called billionaires coming to take your retirement. And you know Musk doesn't give a shit about workers. That's why he lied to you about the H-1B visas. That's why he's publicly said he hates unions. That's how you get to be the world's richest. How do you get to be a billionaire? By helping people. And he's the world's richest billionaire. And he's in charge of your Social Security? This is a bad idea. And what's going to happen is if they end up doing this, which they're doing, so what they're going to try to do is make people think Social Security doesn't work. And we got to get rid of it. And we got to take your Social Security money and put it in an investment account for Wall Street. That's what they've wanted to do my whole life. They've wanted to take your Social Security, which is super secure, take that money and put it in a Wall Street fund. So that's more money to Wall Street. And so how do they do that? They do it by mucking up the Social Security system, the same way they tried to privatize the post office by mucking up the post office system, which works pretty good, even for all the jokes people make about it. And so that's what they're doing. So when you see the stories come out, and they primed you for this by showing you stories about, oh, there's a 300-year-old person getting Social Security. So that's how they primed you for this, to show you these outrageous stories that I haven't seen confirmation of. So that's what this is. And George Carlin predicted this 20 years ago. They got you. American workers are struggling. 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. Half the people in the country can't afford a $400 emergency. 30% of all wage earners earn under $30,000, and they want to keep it that way. And now they're coming for your Social Security. Okay. Did you vote for this? Did you vote for this? I don't think anybody
voted. Bannon warned all this. Remember, and Trump was like, oh, there's going to be so much growth. Why don't we wait for that growth first before we see you do fancy things with the thing? Because if the growth don't happen, that's going to be a big problem.
I will not cut one penny from Social Security or Medicare, and I will not raise the retirement age by 1 day, not by 1 day. And for 4 years, I didn't.
Okay. Get ready. Buckle up. The billionaires are coming for your Social Security.
Meanwhile, just signed a bill to support Israel, and I quote,
forever.
For eternity.
For eternity, we will be sending billions and billions to Israel.
But we got to look into your entitlements that you paid into.
That you paid for.
That you are entitled. It's not they say it like sarcastically.
Yeah.
Like it's this horse shit we got to do. You know, instead of supporting every fucking satanic blood sacrifice war for the last 40.
And Trump and the Republicans and the Democrats too just pushed a budget through Congress that increases the spending in the Pentagon. Increases, not cuts it. So they're not going after, they're not doing what we wanted.
Yeah, Social Security's been draining us. How do they even, when they throw that out there, they act like the military bullshit's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
So it's not even counted in the big numbers. We're like, oh, we're spending too much. On what?
Yeah.
Well, on you, with your money you paid into it.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money.
I wish I would have
They want
played
your
this.
fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street.
That's right.
And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
That's where that comes from. So today when we were talking about they're coming for your Social Security, and I said he said this 20 years ago. He said, I think it was, when did he die? In 2008, June 22nd. So that was almost 20 years ago. It's what, 15 years ago he said this. He wasn't that old.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohost, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.